to introduce to you our first success story. You know, and I'll be speaking to introduce her. So we're going to be having Flora join us shortly. She's a front-end developer who works with the HTML, CSS, Bootstrap, JavaScript, and has worked with WordPress earlier. Now, the very unique thing about Flora's story is that she started learning to code at 56, and within a record 1 year. I still find that unbelievable. Within a record 1 year, she's become a professional developer, and I won't let the cat out of the bag. I will allow her share her story with us. So welcome, Flora.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for having me. Do you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, I'll share my screen if that's okay.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so thank you so much for having me. It's a real pleasure to be here. The best thing for me to be in such great company and celebrate International Women's Day together. So the theme, as you heard, is break the bias, and in tech, in IT, there certainly is a bias against women. I'm all of a sudden doubting if you see what I see, but
you can see your screen.
You can see my screen? Okay,
yes.
Yeah. Okay, so the theme, as you heard, is break the bias, and in IT, I understand that it started out as a field where women were leaders, where they thrived, and maybe you've also seen hidden figures. So women played a crucial role for NASA, and there were female leaders, but let me show you, when you Google these days, a typical coder. Can you see this?
Yes.
Yeah. So these are the first images that come up. You see a lot of young men, and women will really think twice if they have a place among these guys. At least I did. But I thought, you know, if I can take that hurdle, so can you. So let me quickly introduce myself. So my name is Flora. I'm 57 years old. I'm married to Wessel, and we're blessed with 3 daughters who are all university students. And as you said, in November, I started my first job in tech. So I'm a front-end developer at CowManager. That's a software company in the Netherlands. And in the coming minutes, I'll tell you how that all happened, and I'll share my tips. So I've spent my entire life in copywriting, teaching, and translating. So I enjoy exploring new technologies, and I'm a very curious person. I did my studies in the Netherlands, in Leiden. I worked in public relations and sometimes freelance. And I also served in a number of full-time jobs in communication. So I had basically worked 30 years in communications. Well, our eldest daughter was in a university and started coding, and I got inspired. I attended Web Summit. That's a conference where all the important companies like Facebook and Google launch their ideas and products, and where startups compete for funding, where the deals are made, and where the whole world meets. And there was a big emphasis on getting women in tech. So maybe everyone who's interested, look out for conferences like this, because they lowered the price for women so much. It was 1/20th of the cost of the admission of men. So I went there. I was curious, but I didn't take action. I had to convince myself that tech was suitable for me, because I was quite content doing what I did. But as the previous speaker said, I also get a bit bored sometimes. I needed the challenge, but I had also accepted my limits. and that was wrong. So I started coding in the summer of 2020. I attended an orientation on working in IT. And that was interesting. So it was all online, start of COVID. So I learned HTML and CSS, you know, just the beginning, just a little bit. And I became confident enough to apply for a boot camp. But that confidence just disappeared when I was accepted, because, you know, it's like the first day of school. I don't know anything yet. And I thought, what have I gotten myself into? But it was okay. It was very intense. Well, we did start again on HTML, CSS, JavaScript would turn out to be really difficult for me. The React framework, and I also did WordPress. The whole experience was, to me, pretty hard. The previous speaker talked about learning to learn. A continuous learning. It was a big change for me, but I was also supported by my family with this. I didn't feel like a great success by the end of this boot camp to be true. But nevertheless, I wrote an email to CowManager and to ask for a meeting. And what do you know? They said, well, do an assignment. Learn a new framework. So instead of React, it was Vue.js, and build a website with it. So I did that within a week. The documentation is excellent. So, you know, anyone could do that, I think. And they offered me a 6-month internship. And maybe nice to say that my mentor is African, and he is 30 years old. So I was very pleased with that. And then they offered me the job. I work as a front-end developer, and I mostly solve bugs. So I won't tell you that I build all these things, but I know my way in the solution. I work with Vue.js, Bootstrap, HEGrid, CSS, and JavaScript. So for the advice that I have to offer to all new coders, before you start learning, wait, how can I make this disappear? I cannot read my text. So before you start learning, get your hands on a laptop, of course. Then ask yourself, also, do I have what it takes? Is tech a good fit with me? And the reason why I tell you is that it's very hard, for instance, if you don't like criticism or you get easily frustrated. Getting unstuck is your job as a developer. So you're continually stuck. You're continually thinking, okay, what do I do and how do I solve this? And so if that's a fit with your character, then it's wonderful. Also do your research on what kinds of jobs there are, and get to know the industry. A very good tip from my daughter was follow tech Twitter for resources, opinions, commiserations, and encouragement. So after the orientation, you will have to go at least through these 3 steps. Discover the areas and choose where to start your front. So for instance, front end, maybe you like back end, but there's also WordPress or the cloud or Salesforce. If you're, you know, working with the different fields, what gives you energy? So, and then maybe it's good to choose one field and then go deeper. The third element is something that you shouldn't wait for until you're, you know, past number 2. It's something to do immediately. Document and connect. So that's a preparation to get your first job. And I was very active with that on LinkedIn, for instance. People really go wild for the ups and downs of newbie. And that's really hard to imagine, because you're sitting there and you make ugly things and you fail and you fail and fail. But every fail is a learning opportunity. And you will discover that that's really interesting to talk about. Okay, so that's step discovering and making a start. So my tips are that for the front end, at least, and parts of it has back end as well, that there are a lot of good free or almost free opportunities. So I will share a few ones. So I'm a huge fan of Free Code Camp. I was already coding for 4 months when I found this. I don't know how. First of all, it's free, so don't ask me how, but it is. You register on the website and you learn everything from the beginning. So you start with HTML and CSS and then progress. So you have a problem that's presented on the left, a sandbox on the right, your buttons for submitting, resetting, and getting help and the solution. And then on the bottom right, you will see what's going wrong if you are doing things wrong. So for me, that was great to work with. It's very structured. Then there are also about 8,000 tutorials, and I can recommend that. What's also great is that you can receive a certificate when you complete a section, and that's rewarding for you, and also a great way to show your progress to the world when you show it on when you post it on LinkedIn or Twitter. Then the Udemy course. This sounds maybe strange, but everyone does that, and everyone purchases more than one, and it's hardly finished. But this one here with Angela Yu really made things click for me. So that's why I want to mention it. I was very happy at that time to have someone explain things in a way that I could understand. And don't worry if it takes a while for the information to stick. Remember, you're learning new skills and knowledge, and it may take a while. And what's important to know here also is don't feel ashamed if someone else goes faster. You know, everyone's different and you're on your own path. I also want to mention WordPress, and that was, it's not coding from scratch as the other things I mentioned, but it is another world out there. And if you have a marketing background and a keen eye for detail, and if you can translate the customer's wish into a product, this is really also a very good choice. It's also great to make your own blog to document your progress and your journey. In my experience, it's WordPress is not as valued among developers, but just ignore that because it could make you a very good living. Going back to the 3 points. So the first was discovery, and then you want to go deeper. You have to see what gives you energy. So choose what you like and go deeper into that. So maybe you like CSS like me. You can make beautiful designs, everything moves. It's becoming really pretty and really aesthetic. And not everyone likes this. So JavaScript developers have a very hard time centering divs. But do whatever you like best and become good at it. And there's always a place for you. Maybe JavaScript is your thing and not CSS. Just get better in what you're doing. Check out what the industry works with and what kind of new technologies there are, and start building things. I also want to say that when you start working, of course, it's not possible to just say, I do CSS. You cannot be a diva. With all that diving deeper, you have to learn how to swim. Because if you want to perform at work, you have to master certain things like Git. That will be a headache, or you won't be able to work in a team. And even if you don't like JavaScript, as I do, you will have to practice. And that's what I do every day. So AdaBit is a very good website for that. So then for me, number 3 is also very important to get a job, start documenting what you do. Go on Twitter, use the hashtag 100 days of code, write a blog, and you will get a lot of energy from that. Maybe some other speakers will touch upon LinkedIn, but I just wanted to mention it. It's important as well. So update your profile to programmer immediately, rewrite your profile and share your successes, and be sure to post original content. And that will be very important leading up to applying for a job. It worked really well for me, I have to say. Then getting a job, you notice that I told you that I work for CowManager. My eye fell on this company because, well, I really like cows and I'm from a farmer's family. My grandfather was a farmer and my uncles were farmers. So I was really enthusiastic about their software. It's an earring for or a sensor for cows that they wear in their ear, and it measures temperature and movement, and they do all kinds of interesting things with that, so that the well-being of cows is improved. So I was very enthusiastic, and that was what got me the job, because they said you were so enthusiastic, and it's a fact. You know, people can teach you to code, but they cannot teach you how to be enthusiastic. So that's the situation I'm in now. I'm still learning, but I'm still optimistic and enthusiastic. And of course, you have to see if that company pays well, and you have to learn how to negotiate. That's also not bad to do a course on that. And so that this concludes my my presentation. I think, yes, we can break the bias. And I would say go for it, Paven. For everyone who's listening, pick up a free resource and start coding.
Okay. Thank you, Flora. Thank you so much.
Okay.
A round of applause.
Okay.
Amazing, inspiring. All right, participants, please send in your questions. Okay, we have a question here.
Oh, good.
Yeah, from Abiodun. Abiodun says, hello, I'm a tech enthusiast. Please, I need an explanation on these things, front end and back end.
Oh gosh, front end and back end. Well, I don't have the exact wording ready, but front end is basically what you what you see, and the back end is the data you're getting. So for instance, in the solution that we have at CowManager, there every cow, so all million cows that are served with this software, they have a sensor, and it's all sent to this. All the information about the cow is sent to the cloud, and that's where the data is. And then that data is injected into the whole structure of what you see on the website. So, but I'm not very knowledgeable about the backend. But this is I just think of it as what you see on your screen, and then that's your front end.
That works.
Your buttons and your headers and your things like that. Yeah.
That works. Simple enough for all of us to understand.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. I think you touched on this question from Nkem, but I'll just repeat it. So probably you want to elaborate further. She says, how can we discover which area of tech that we like best?
It's just a matter of starting. And I think starting coding, so starting with, as I said, the free code camp, then you start really with the basics. And then at the same time, be interested and look around, maybe also YouTube. I didn't mention YouTube, but there's a ton of tutorials. I found that hard, but I prefer in my learning, I prefer to see it written down. But the nice thing about tech, I think, is that people like to share their knowledge. And I don't know any other field where they do that. So go on YouTube and look for tutorial and then your subject.
Okay, thank you. We have a question from Tabitha, and she says, "Hello, Flora. Very impressive transition into tech. My question is, when you started your transition process, at what point did you start applying for jobs? And what indicators showed you that you were ready to apply for jobs?"
Well, I have to go back to the other speaker who said risk-taking. Honestly, she said it really well, because apparently for 30 years, I was not taking many risks. And then I started, and then I thought, well, I might as well, be a total failure, but I will just have to, I have to present myself somewhere. This is all nice on my personal computer, but I will have to try sometime. And I gave myself permission to fail. And that is something that really worked for me, because apparently I had been a perfectionist and I didn't want to fail. And now you fail nonstop when you code. And you hear, I had an interview with my boss the other day, and I was so surprised. And he had been coding for 20 years. And he started telling me his mess ups, his mistakes, his blunders. And I thought, what are you doing? But he just wanted to let me know that everyone fails. So, you might as well join a company doing it.
Right.
And my process, it was just writing, okay, I applied for 2 jobs. And then, that was it. Yeah, so just give yourself permission to fail.
Okay. I think we can link this to the question from Bilkis Belu, that says, "What are the challenges of changing jobs, and how do you regain or renew your passion for learning when it wanes?" So I know you've answered a part of a question, taking risks, but there's a second part to that question that says, how do you regain your passion for learning when it wanes?
Okay, it wanes. It does wane sometimes, because, well, okay, I'm not so good at JavaScript. And I'm really busy in my, I work 36 hours a week, and I need to do that. And then I try to procrastinate. I push it away. I think I'm too tired. I don't want to do it. But I had to. I mentioned it to my boss, and I said I need to get better. So I made a commitment with that. And then, so that's in my KPIs, the key performance indicators. So I know that in June I will be, I will have to have made some progress with it. And it's also in my, as a ticket, I have it, for my work. I am committed to do this, even if I don't want to do it. And then if you do that in the morning, then you have a very good day.
Sure.
You know the expression. Frog. You know the expression. Eat your frog in the morning.
Yeah, eat your frog.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah.
Thank you, Flora. So Bilkis, I believe this has answered your question. I would have loved to ask. There's so many questions pouring in, but we have to go. Before we go, I will just take this last question. Apologies to the participants. We need to move to the next session. So the last question I'll be asking you is, Temitayo here says she had her first attempt at negotiating salary, and that she felt some regret, you know, and then her question really is, how were you able to negotiate properly, knowing that you didn't have years of experience in tech? So for
Okay.
newbies,
For
yes.
newbies, yeah, that is
Yeah.
difficult because you don't feel like you are worth much. But at least in the Netherlands, there's a shortage. So that's a good starting position. And I would say go on Twitter and read what people are writing about negotiation. And sometimes be bold. Never say what you earned before. And yeah, there are a lot of tips, but time is too short to say that here. Yeah, but it's also good to of course talk to someone who already has a job, or look at Glassdoor.com or something. Glassdoor.
Yes, Glassdoor.
Yeah,
Glassdoor.
so you kind of get an idea about what is reasonable.
All right.
And then renegotiate later.
Okay, I hope you got that, Tayo. Renegotiate, try again. It still ties to taking risks, being willing to fail until you get it right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can I add something? I follow someone on LinkedIn, and her company is called Women in Negotiation, WIN. And I attended a seminar of her once, and it was excellent. So it's free to follow. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.